Welcome to Coins News Daily. Did you know that some United States of America Washington $quarter coins are worth thousands, even tens of thousands, of dollars? One small 25-cent coin could buy you a brand new car. These rare Washington quarters are making collectors rich. If you enjoyed this video and love rare coin discoveries, make sure to hit that subscribe button, like this video, and drop a comment below telling me which Washington quarter surprised you the most. Subscription, like, share, comments me. Thanks with love for watching. Coin 1. Today we are diving into one of the most mysterious and talked about modern American coins ever discovered, the 1965 Washington quarter with no mint mark. If you love coins, hidden treasures, rare errors, and the thrill of finding something extraordinary in ordinary pocket change, then stay with me until the very end. Because what I'm about to share could completely change the way you look at every single quarter in your wallet. The 1965 Washington quarter was struck during a historic transition in American coinage. The United States was facing a major silver shortage. For decades before 1965, quarters were made of 90% silver. But in 1965, everything changed. The U.S. Mint switched to a copper-nickel clad composition. That means the quarters made in 1965 were supposed to contain no silver at all. Now here is where it gets interesting. All 1965 quarters were struck without mint marks. The Mint intentionally removed mint marks from coins between 1965 and 1967 to discourage collectors from hoarding coins. So technically, every normal 1965 Washington quarter has no mint mark. That is standard, but what if I told you that not all 1965 quarters are the same? Some extremely rare 1965 quarters were accidentally struck on leftover silver planchets from 1964. Yes, you heard that right. A few coins that were supposed to be clad were mistakenly struck on 90% silver blanks. And those are the coins that have shocked the collecting world. Imagine this. You find a 1965 quarter. It has no mint mark, just like every other 1965 quarter. It looks normal. But when you weigh it, instead of the standard 5.67 grams of a clad quarter, it weighs about 6.25 grams. That difference may not seem huge, but in the coin world, it is everything. The silver version also has a solid silver edge, not the copper stripe you see on normal clad coins. That copper line on the edge is the easiest way to tell if your 1965 quarter is common or potentially rare. Collectors go crazy over these silver error pieces because they were never supposed to exist. Officially, 1965 quarters were clad. But minting errors happen, and when they do, history is created. Now let's talk real market value. A regular 1965 clad Washington quarter with no mint mark in circulated condition is worth only face value, 25 cents. Even in uncirculated condition, most examples sell for about $5 to $15 depending on grade, but the rare 1965 silver error quarter is a completely different story. Authenticated examples have sold at major auctions for over $7,000. In higher mint state grades, some have reached prices above $10,000. One exceptional high-grade example realized more than $12,000 at auction, and that is not hype. That is real auction money paid by serious collectors who understand the rarity. But the silver planchet error is not the only reason a 1965 quarter can be valuable. There are also dramatic error varieties that increase value significantly. Let's talk about double die errors. On some 1965 quarters, collectors have found noticeable doubling in the lettering, especially in the word Liberty and in the date. True double dies are created during the die manufacturing process, not from machine vibration. These can bring anywhere from $100 to several $100s depending on strength and condition. Then there are off-center strikes. If a 1965 quarter was not properly aligned during striking, part of the design may be missing. Strong off-center examples with full visible dates can sell for $200 to $500. Clipped planchet errors are another fascinating variety. These occur when the metal blank was improperly cut, leaving a curved missing section on the coin. Depending on the size of the clip and overall condition, values can range from $50 to several $100s. There are also strike-through errors, where foreign material interfered during striking, leaving unusual textures or indentations. Some of these pieces have sold for over $100. but none compare to the legendary silver transitional era. The reason collectors pay thousands of dollars is simple. Rarity plus historical significance equals demand. The 1965 year marks the first year of clad coinage. Any silver example from that year represents a mistake at the highest level of mint production during a major policy change in American coin history. When you hold one of these rare silver 1965 quarters, you are holding a piece of minting history that slipped through during a national coinage transition. Now imagine the excitement of discovering one in circulation. Even today, people search bank rolls hoping to find that solid silver edge. Most searches end with disappointment. But every once in a while, a remarkable discovery is made. If you are serious about searching, here is what you should do. First, always check the edge. If you see a copper stripe, it is clad. If the edge is solid silver in color with no copper line, you may have something special. Second, weigh the coin with a precise digital scale. A silver example will weigh about 6.25 grams. A clad version weighs about 5.67 grams. Third, never clean the coin. Cleaning destroys value instantly. Collectors want originality. If you believe you have found a silver 1965 quarter, have it authenticated by a professional grading service. Authentication is essential because counterfeits and altered coins exist. Now let's imagine you are the lucky person who finds one. A confirmed silver 1965 Washington quarter in average circulated condition can sell for $7,000 to $8,000. In mint state condition, examples have brought $10,000 to $12,000 at public auction. Exceptional specimens in superb condition can exceed that range depending on bidding competition. That is life-changing money from a 25-cent coin, and that is why coin collecting is so addictive. It combines history, treasure hunting, patience, and knowledge. The 1965 Washington quarter with no mint mark might look ordinary. Millions and millions were produced. But hidden within that massive mintage are a few extraordinary mistakes that transformed simple pocket change into a high-value collectible. So next time you receive change at a store, do not ignore those quarters. Flip them over. Check the edge. Look closely at the date. Because sometimes the most valuable treasures are hiding in plain sight. Coin collecting is not just about money. It is about the thrill of discovery. The connection to history. The idea that something small and overlooked could hold incredible value, and the 1965 Washington quarter proves that perfectly. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of America's most intriguing modern coin rarities, stay tuned for more hidden treasures, rare errors, and real auction stories. Because in the world of coins, one small detail can make the difference between face value and thousands of dollars. Coin 2. We are diving deep into one of the most mysterious and talked about modern American coins ever discovered, the 1966 Washington quarter with no mint mark. Coin collectors, treasure hunters, and even everyday people checking their pocket change have been searching for this piece for decades. And trust me, by the end of this video, you may want to check every single quarter you own. Before we get into the value and real market prices, let's understand the history behind this coin. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th birthday of America's first president, George Washington. It was designed by John Flanagan, and the obverse features a powerful left-facing portrait of Washington. The reverse originally showed an eagle with outstretched wings, symbolizing strength and freedom. Now fast forward to the 1960s. The United States was facing a serious coin shortage. Silver prices were rising, people were hoarding coins, and the government had to make a major change. In 1965, the United States Mint removed silver from circulating quarters. Instead of being made from 90% silver, quarters from 1965 and 1966 were made with a copper-nickel clad composition. Here's where things get interesting. In 1965, 1966, and 1967, the U.S. Mint made a very unusual decision. They removed mint marks entirely. That means quarters from 1966 officially have no mint mark at all, whether they were struck in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. This was done to discourage collectors from hoarding coins. So technically, every 1966 quarter has no mint mark, but wait. That doesn't mean every 1966 quarter is valuable. Most of them are extremely common. In fact, over 821 million quarters were produced in 1966. That is a massive mintage. So why are some 1966 Washington quarters worth serious money? The answer is condition and rare mint errors. Let's talk about condition first. Most 1966 quarters you find in circulation are heavily worn. They've been used for decades. But if you find one in high mint state condition, meaning it has never been circulated and still has its original luster, the value increases dramatically. Collectors look for coins graded MS65 or higher. At that level, the surfaces are clean, the strike is sharp, and there are very few marks. In today's real market, a 1966 Washington quarter in MS65 condition can sell for around $20 to $30. But when you go even higher, like MS67, the price jumps significantly. High-end examples have sold at auction for more than $1,000, and that's just for a regular high-grade coin. Now let's get into the exciting part, the rare errors point. One of the most valuable errors found on a 1966 quarter is a double die error. This happens when the coin die receives a misaligned impression during manufacturing, causing visible doubling in the design. Collectors carefully examine the lettering in Liberty and In God We Trust, looking for strong doubling. A genuine double die example in strong condition can sell for hundreds to several $1,000s depending on the strength of the doubling and overall grade. Another rare and valuable error is the off-center strike. This occurs when the coin blank is not properly aligned during striking. If the date is still visible and the strike is significantly off-center, collectors pay a premium. Depending on how dramatic the error is, these can sell for $100 to several $100s. There are also coins struck on wrong planchets. Imagine finding a 1966 quarter that was accidentally struck on a silver planchet intended for another denomination. These transitional errors are extremely rare. When authenticated, such coins have sold for several $1,000s at auction. Clipped planchet errors are another fascinating variety. A portion of the coin is literally missing due to a cutting error at the mint. Genuine examples, especially in higher grades, can sell for $50 to $200, and then there are coins with die cracks and cuts. These happen when the die used to strike the coin begins to break apart. Raised lines or blobs of metal appear on the coin's surface. While minor cracks may only add a small premium, dramatic cut errors can increase the value significantly. Now here's something many people don't realize. Even though 1966 quarters were not supposed to have mint marks, proof coins were still made for collectors in special mint sets. These coins have a special satin-like finish. If you find a 1966 special mint set quarter in pristine condition graded SP67 or higher, it can be worth $100 to $500, and exceptional examples have reached over $1,000 at auction. So what should you look for if you're checking your coins right now? First, check the overall condition. Is the coin shiny with no wear on Washington's hair and the eagle's feathers? Next, look closely at the lettering for doubling. Use a magnifying glass if you can. Check for off-center strikes. Look at the edge for unusual metal color that might indicate a wrong planchet. Weigh the coin if possible. A standard clad quarter should weigh about 5.67 grams. Any major difference could signal something unusual. Coin collecting is not just about money. It's about history, mystery, and the thrill of discovery. The 1966 Washington quarter represents a major turning point in American coinage, the end of the silver era and the beginning of modern clad coins, but hidden among millions of ordinary coins could be one extraordinary piece worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Imagine finding one in your pocket change. Imagine turning 25 cents into $1,000. That's why collectors never stop searching. Today's market continues to reward high-grade examples and rare error varieties. While most 1966 quarters are worth face value, the rare exceptions are what make this coin so exciting. So next time you receive change, don't ignore that quarter, examine it, study it, because the difference between an ordinary coin and a valuable treasure could be just one tiny detail. In today's real market, a circulated 1966 Washington quarter is worth 25 cents. In uncirculated MS65 condition it is worth around $20 to $30. In MS-67 condition it has sold for more than $1,000. Strong double die or major error examples have sold from several $100s to several $1,000s depending on rarity and grade, and that is why the 1966 Washington quarter with no mint mark continues to capture the attention of collectors across the United States. If you love coin collecting, treasure hunting, and discovering hidden value, make sure you stay tuned for more deep dives into rare and valuable coins. Coin 3. We are diving into one of the most mysterious and misunderstood coins in American pocket change history. A coin that millions of people have seen, thousands have saved, and a few lucky collectors have turned into serious money. I'm talking about the 1967 Washington quarter with no mint mark. Before you think this is just another ordinary silver-looking quarter, stay with me. Because this coin carries a fascinating story tied to American history, rare minting circumstances, and valuable error varieties that have shocked collectors at auctions. Let's begin with the background. In 1967, the United States was still adjusting to major changes in its coinage system. Just a few years earlier, in 1965, rising silver prices forced the U.S. Mint to remove silver from circulating quarters. The classic 90% silver Washington quarters ended in 1964. By 1967, quarters were made of a copper-nickel-clad composition instead of silver, and here's where things get interesting. From 1965 through 1967, the U.S. Mint made a historic decision. They removed mint marks from all coins. That means every 1967 quarter you see has no mint mark, regardless of whether it was struck in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. The government believed collectors were hoarding coins based on mint marks, so they eliminated them entirely to discourage speculation. So yes, every 1967 Washington quarter has no mint mark. That alone does not make it rare, but don't click away yet, because within that massive production year, there are rare conditions, high-grade examples, and error coins that can be worth far more than 25 cents. First, let's talk about mintage. Over 1.5 billion Washington quarters were struck in 1967. That sounds common, and it is. Most circulated examples are only worth face value today. But condition is everything in coin collecting. An ordinary circulated 1967 quarter that shows wear from decades of use is generally worth only 25 cents. However, uncirculated examples are a different story. A bright, sharply struck 1967 quarter in mint state 65 condition can sell for around $20 to $30 in today's market. Higher grade examples become much more scarce. In mint state 67 condition, auction prices have reached around $200 to $400 depending on appeal and certification, but here is where things become truly exciting, because some 1967 Washington quarters were struck on special mint set planchets. Although there were no official proof coins in 1967, the U.S. Mint did produce special mint sets instead of traditional proof sets from 1965 to 1967. These special mint set coins have a distinctive satin-like finish and sharper detail compared to regular circulation strikes. If you find a 1967 quarter with unusually strong strike detail, smooth fields, and a semi-proof-like appearance, you may be looking at a special mint set example. In high-grade condition, certified special mint set 1967 quarters have sold for around $500 to $1,000. Ultra high-end examples with exceptional appeal have crossed even higher at auction. Now let's talk about errors. This is where collectors need to pay very close attention. Error coins are what truly transform common coins into valuable treasures. One of the most valuable errors for the 1967 Washington quarter is the double die variety. A true double die occurs during the hubbing process when the design is impressed onto the die more than once in slightly misaligned positions. This creates noticeable doubling on lettering and design elements. On some 1967 quarters, strong doubling can be seen in the words "In God We Trust" and "Liberty." Authentic double die examples in high grade have sold for several $100s, with exceptional examples reaching over $1,000 depending on visibility and certification. Another rare and valuable error is the off-center strike. If the coin was not properly centered during striking, part of the design may be missing. The more dramatic the off-center error while still showing a full date, the more valuable the coin becomes. Off-center 1967 quarters have sold for $100 to $500 depending on the percentage of the strike missing, there are also broad strike errors, where the coin expands beyond its normal diameter due to a collar malfunction. These typically sell for around $100 to $300 depending on condition, but perhaps the most dramatic error is a wrong planchet strike. If a 1967 quarter was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for another denomination, such as a nickel or even a foreign coin blank, the value can skyrocket. Verified wrong planchet examples have sold for several $1,000s at major auctions, and then we have transitional errors. While rare, there have been cases where leftover silver planchets from 1964 were accidentally used in 1965 and possibly 1966 production. If a genuine 1967 quarter were ever discovered struck on a 90% silver planchet, it would be an extraordinary rarity worth potentially tens of thousands of dollars. However, such examples must be authenticated by professional grading services because silver-clad differences can be misinterpreted. Now let's talk about what makes a 1967 Washington quarter truly desirable to collectors: sharp strike detail in Washington's hair. Strong eagle feather definition on the reverse. Clean, mark-free surfaces. Original luster that radiates when tilted under light. Most 1967 quarters were heavily used in circulation, so finding a pristine one today is much harder than people think. Many were stored improperly, leading to contact marks, dull surfaces, and environmental damage. This is why certified top population examples bring serious money at auction. Collectors are constantly competing for the finest known specimens. Registry set competition drives prices higher, especially when population numbers are extremely low in top grades. So how do you check your own 1967 quarter? First, examine the edge. You should see a copper stripe sandwiched between nickel layers. If the edge appears solid silver with no copper stripe, you may need further testing. Second, inspect the lettering carefully under magnification. Look for clear doubling, not machine doubling but true separation in the letters. Third, weigh the coin. A standard clad 1967 quarter weighs approximately 5.67 grams. Any significant deviation could indicate an error. And finally, never clean your coin. Cleaning destroys collector value instantly. Now let's talk real numbers. A circulated 1967 Washington quarter is worth face value at 25 cents. An uncirculated mint state 65 example is worth around $20 to $30. Mint State 67 examples have sold for $200 to $400. High-grade special mint set examples have sold for $500 to $1,000. Major double die or dramatic error examples have sold for several hundred to over $1,000. Wrong planchet or extraordinary mint errors have sold for several $1,000s depending on rarity and authentication. The 1967 Washington quarter may seem common at first glance, but hidden within that massive mintage are coins that collectors dream of finding. So next time you receive change, don't ignore that quarter dated 1967. Look closely. Examine it carefully. Because sometimes history hides in plain sight, and who knows? The next valuable discovery could already be sitting in your pocket. If you love coin collecting, rare discoveries, and hidden treasure stories like this, make sure you stay tuned for more deep dives into America's most fascinating coins. Coin 4. We are diving into one of the most misunderstood yet surprisingly valuable modern American coins, the 1972 Washington quarter with no mint mark. And before you click away thinking this is just another common pocket change coin, stay with me. Because some collectors have paid serious money for the right example of this coin, and most people have no idea what to look for. The 1972 Washington quarter was struck during a fascinating time in United States history. America was in the middle of economic change. Inflation was rising, coin production was increasing, and millions of quarters were being released into circulation. At first glance, the 1972 quarter seems completely ordinary. It features the familiar portrait of George Washington on the obverse and the eagle on the reverse, a design that had been in use since 1932. Now here is where it gets interesting. When we say, no mint mark, we are talking about coins struck at the Philadelphia Mint. In 1972, Philadelphia quarters did not carry a mint mark. That means every standard 1972 quarter without a small letter under the date was made in Philadelphia. So you might be thinking, if they all have no mint mark, how can any of them be rare? The answer is condition, preservation, and errors. In 1972, the Philadelphia Mint produced over 153 million quarters. That is a massive number. Most of them entered circulation immediately. They were used in vending machines, parking meters, laundromats, and everyday transactions. Because of that, most surviving examples today are heavily worn. Finding one in pristine condition is much harder than people expect. For collectors, the real treasure lies in high-grade uncirculated examples. Coins graded MS-67 or higher are extremely difficult to find. The Washington Quarter series is known for weak strikes, especially in the hair details above Washington's ear and in the eagle's breast feathers on the reverse. A sharply struck 1972 quarter with blazing luster, no contact marks, and strong details is a true prize, but that is only the beginning. There are also valuable errors that can turn an ordinary 1972 no-mint mark quarter into a coin worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. One of the most exciting is the double die error. While not as dramatic as the famous 1972 Lincoln cent double die, some 1972 quarters show noticeable doubling in the lettering, especially in Liberty and In God We Trust. When strong and confirmed, these can bring significant premiums. Another error to look for is off-center strikes. When a coin is not properly aligned during the minting process, part of the design may be missing. The more dramatic the off-center strike, while still showing a full date, the more valuable it becomes. Collectors love visual errors, and off-center quarters are always in demand. There are also clipped planchets. This happens when the metal blank is improperly cut, leaving a curved missing section on the coin. Genuine clipped planchets have a distinctive Blakesley effect near the rim opposite the clip. These are collectible and can bring strong prices depending on size and eye appeal. Die cracks and cuds are another area where collectors pay attention. A cud forms when a piece of the die breaks off, creating a raised blob of metal on the coin's surface. Large, dramatic cuds are especially collectible. Let's talk about why high-grade examples are so rare. In 1972, the mint was focused on quantity, not perfection. Coins were struck quickly and often stored in large canvas bags. Those bags were heavy, and coins would slam against each other, causing contact marks before they even left the mint. This is why bag marks are common on 1972 quarters. Finding one without noticeable marks is extremely challenging. Additionally, most collectors at the time were not saving rolls of quarters in large numbers like they do today. That means fewer pristine rolls survived untouched for decades. Another factor is toning. Some 1972 quarters develop beautiful rainbow toning when stored properly over time. Natural, attractive toning can significantly increase a coin's desirability and value, especially among advanced collectors who appreciate originality. Now let's build the suspense. Imagine going through an old coin jar passed down from a grandparent. You pull out a 1972 quarter. At first, it looks normal. But then you notice the details are sharp. The luster is bright. There are almost no scratches. Under magnification, the lettering appears slightly doubled. You send it for professional grading. Weeks later, you receive confirmation, a high mint state grade with a recognized error. That ordinary-looking quarter suddenly becomes a collector's prize. This is why coin collectors always say, check your change carefully. The Washington Quarter series has a loyal following. Since its introduction in 1932 to commemorate George Washington's 200th birthday, it has become one of the most collected U.S. coin series. By 1972, the coin was composed of copper-nickel-clad layers bonded to a pure copper core, as silver had been removed from circulating quarters after 1964. Even though it is a clad coin and not silver, condition rarity makes all the difference. Now let's talk about real market value. In circulated condition, a typical 1972 no-mint mark quarter is usually worth face value, 25 cents. In lightly circulated condition, it may sell for $1 to $3 depending on eye appeal. In uncirculated mint state condition, values increase significantly. Coins graded MS-65 often sell in the range of $15 to $30. MS-66 examples can reach $50 to $100 depending on strike and luster, but here is where it becomes serious. An MS-67 graded example has sold at auction for over $1,500. Exceptional examples approaching MS-67 plus quality have brought even stronger premiums when bidding competition is intense. Error coins vary widely. A strong double die can sell for several $100s. A dramatic off-center strike with a full visible date can range from $100 to over $500 depending on percentage off-center and visual appeal. Large cut errors have sold for $200 or more. These are real market results from major coin auctions and certified sales. So what should you look for right now? First, check the area under the date. If there is no mint mark, you have a Philadelphia issue. Next, examine the coin under magnification. Look closely at the lettering and date for doubling. Inspect the rim for clips or unusual shapes. Check for raised cracks or blobs that could indicate a cud. Then evaluate the overall condition. Are the high points worn? Is the luster intact? Are there distracting marks? If your coin looks nearly perfect, it may be worth submitting to a professional grading service. The thrill of coin collecting is not just about money. It is about history, craftsmanship, and the hunt. The 1972 Washington quarter with no mint mark may seem common, but in the right condition or with the right error, it transforms into something extraordinary, and that is what makes coin collecting so exciting. Every coin tells a story. Every scratch, every strike, every tiny imperfection is part of its journey. Somewhere out there, a 1972 quarter is sitting unnoticed in a drawer, worth far more than anyone realizes. So before you spend your next quarter, take a closer look, because that simple piece of change could be hiding a value of over $1,500 in top condition, and rare error examples have reached several $100s at auction. Coin lovers, stay curious, keep searching, and never underestimate the power of pocket change. Coin 5. We are diving deep into one of the most misunderstood and surprisingly talked about modern coins in American pocket change history, the 1973 Washington quarter with no mint mark. And I promise you, by the end of this video, you will never look at your loose change the same way again. Imagine this. It's 1973. America is going through major economic changes. Gas prices are rising, the Vietnam War is ending, and millions of quarters are being struck every single day to keep commerce moving. Vending machines, arcades, laundromats, the Washington quarter is everywhere. But hidden among these everyday coins are examples that today spark intense debate, excitement, and sometimes wild online rumors. So let's break it down carefully, clearly, and honestly. First, let's talk about the coin itself. The 1973 Washington quarter features the familiar portrait of George Washington on the obverse, designed by John Flanagan. On the reverse, we see the heraldic eagle with outstretched wings, a powerful symbol that had been used since 1932. This design remained until 1998 before the state quarters program changed everything. Now here's where things get interesting. When people hear 1973 quarter with no mint mark, many immediately assume they have found a rare error. But here is the truth that every serious collector must understand. In 1973, quarters were struck at 3 major U.S. mint facilities, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Philadelphia Mint in 1973 did not use a mint mark on quarters. That means if your 1973 quarter has no mint mark, it was struck in Philadelphia, and that is completely normal. There were over 346 million 1973 quarters produced in Philadelphia alone. That's hundreds of millions of coins. Because of that high mintage, a typical circulated 1973 quarter with no mint mark is worth face value, 25 cents, yes, just 25 cents, but don't click away yet. Because condition changes everything. In the world of coin collecting, rarity is not just about how many were made. It's about how many survive in high-grade condition. Most 1973 quarters entered circulation immediately. They were used in vending machines, dropped on sidewalks, scratched, worn down, and heavily handled. Finding one today in worn condition is easy. Finding one in pristine, untouched, mint state condition is a different story. If you have a 1973 no mint mark quarter in uncirculated condition, meaning no wear, strong luster, sharp details, its value can increase significantly. In lower uncirculated grades, these coins typically sell in the range of $5 to $15. In higher certified mint state grades such as MS-65, examples have sold in the range of $20 to $40 depending on appeal and demand. But here is where things become truly exciting. In superb gem condition, graded MS-67 by major grading services, auction records have reached several $100s, and in extremely rare cases of MS-67 plus with exceptional strike and brilliant luster, auction prices have climbed above $1,000. Now we are talking serious collector territory. But wait, that's not all. Error coins are where modern quarters can become surprisingly valuable. While the standard 1973 no-mint mark quarter is common, certain mint errors from that year can command strong premiums. Let's talk about what to look for. Off-center strikes, when the coin design is not properly centered, can sell from $100 to several $100s depending on how dramatic the error is. Double strikes, where the coin is struck more than once, can also bring prices ranging from $200 to over $500. Clipped planchets, where part of the coin is missing due to a blanking error, can sell between $50 and $300 depending on size and visual appeal. There are also rare cases of wrong planchet errors, where a quarter design was struck on a nickel or foreign coin blank. These dramatic mint mistakes can reach thousands of dollars at auction, but here is the most important message for you as a collector or treasure hunter: do not confuse normal wear, damage, or post-mint scratches with true mint errors. Real errors happen during the striking process at the mint. Damage that happens after the coin leaves the mint does not add value. So how can you tell if your 1973 no-mint mark quarter is worth more than face value? First, check the condition. Look for strong detail in Washington's hair. Look at the eagle's feathers on the reverse. Does the coin still have mint luster, that shiny cartwheel effect when tilted under light? Second, check for clear, dramatic errors, not small scratches or discoloration. Third, if you truly believe you have a high grade or error example, consider professional grading. Certification by a respected grading company can significantly increase buyer confidence and market value. Now let's talk real numbers. Clearly and honestly, a circulated 1973 no-mint mark quarter is worth 25 cents. A lightly uncirculated example may bring $1 to $3. A choice uncirculated coin may sell for $5 to $15. A gem uncirculated piece graded around MS-65 can bring $20 to $40. An exceptional MS-67 example has sold for several $100s. The highest quality known examples have reached auction prices above $1,000. Major mint error examples have sold from $100 to several $1,000s depending on rarity and visual impact. That is the real market. No hype. No exaggerated internet claims. Just honest collector value, and that's what makes coin collecting so powerful. Sometimes the treasure is not in a mysterious missing mint mark. Sometimes it is in condition. Sometimes it is in patience. Sometimes it is in knowledge. The 1973 Washington quarter with no mint mark may seem ordinary. But in the right condition, or with the right error, it can absolutely become a valuable piece of American numismatic history. So tonight, I challenge you, open that coin jar. Check your drawers. Look at your pocket change carefully under a bright light. Not because every coin will make you rich, but because the hunt itself is exciting. Coin collecting is not just about money. It's about history you can hold in your hand. It's about understanding how millions of coins were made, and why only a tiny fraction survive in remarkable condition. And who knows, maybe the next time you hear that small metallic sound of a quarter hitting the table, you'll look twice. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the 1973 Washington quarter with no mint mark, stay tuned. Because there are many more hidden stories in everyday coins. Listen carefully. Look closely. And keep collecting.